All right, next up, back on the show, he's my connection to the Boston sports scene as the lead anchor on WHDH Boston News. It's Morey Hershgordon joining us on the Course of Life. Morey, great to have you back. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me back. We had a great conversation the first time. Hopefully this time it's going to be even better. We've got a Patriots team with some high expectations. The Red Sox look like they're going to be going to the postseason for the first time in 4 years. And, it's there's always something to talk about in terms of the Bruins and Celtics. So always a good time here in Boston.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a busy 2025 on the sports scene, and also very busy 2025 for you as well, too. Big life change being since the last time we talked. I get to officially congratulate you on fatherhood. You had a baby boy, Gates. Explain to me the moment when you became a dad and how it's all been for you.
Yeah, April 30th. My wife was a warrior, first and foremost. I'm just sitting there with the pom-poms on the sideline, having the fan in her face and giving her all the encouragement that she needed as she accomplished, probably the greatest feat in her life that she'd say. I think she would definitely agree with that. A long labor, but he was well worth it. Gates came out April 30th. We were watching Celtics playoff basketball and then winning that first series against the Magic, and out pops Gates. So it's been a great summer. Took some paternity leave in May, came back to work in June, had the month of July off again. So I split paternity leave up in two. But summer vacation is all over in the Hershgordon household. I'm back to work now. This is the start of my second full week. My wife's going back right after Labor Day. So the nanny was over this afternoon for the first dry run, so we're starting to get used to that. And the paycheck every week that's got to go out to her will be take a little getting used to as well. So, but no, all great developments in our household, no complaints, and just happy to get back to work and get back into a sense of normalcy.
Yeah, she's definitely indeed the real MVP. So shout out to your wife for everything that she went through. But yeah, I love asking dads about what that paternity leave moment's like. Obviously, it's the first moments and weeks when you're with your new kid, which is great. But it's also that weird thing where you're completely off from work responsibilities. What was that time period like for you specifically?
Well, so it's not a full-time job at work, so to speak, but it's a full-time job and even more so at home, the emotional and physical support for your wife who just went through something. So physically she's down, the hormones are all, kind of out of whack, so to speak. And now you're trying to keep this thing alive and you've got zero practice. You have zero roadmap. And after 3 days, you don't have that red button on the side of the hospital bed where you can just call a nurse 24/7.
Right.
So, so it was good. The first couple of weeks were good, getting used to it. Like I said, went back to work for a little spurt there. So kind of got into the habit of what life's going to be like when we both go back to work. And then the next 6 weeks, like I said, being off was just tremendous. Summertime, weather's been good up here in Boston. It seemed like it had rained every weekend for like 12, 13 straight weeks to begin, like kind of late spring, early summer. Yep. And July and August has been really nice up here. Almost too hot to bring, a 3-month-old outside, but we live right on a walking trail. So we try to sneak out at dusk if there weren't too many bugs, get the dog outside, get him outside, give him some fresh air. And now we're looking forward to the fall where he's got his shots. We can take him to some orchards. We can take him pumpkin picking. And the grandparents love all the pictures, when we send them in the group chats all the time.
Oh, you're getting all the first now because you're heading into the holiday season right now. So you're going to check off all those boxes from the content standpoint. And you posted on Instagram as well, too, that Gates even got his first summer family vacay out of the way. How did he do? Rate his performance on the first vacay for him.
Oh, he's phenomenal. He's an A+ napper, knock on wood. I'll take credit for that as a guy who can fall asleep anywhere. But he's a great napper, which really gives us, 3 90-minute sessions throughout the day where we could at least get to the pool or hang out outside or spend time with family. So, no, he knocked it out of the park. Doesn't really get up throughout the night, doesn't need to feed anymore through the night. So he gave mom and dad as much free time as possible, even though it doesn't really feel like there's much free time. He gave us as much as he could have.
Nice. Awesome. Well, great to hear that everything's going well on that front. Busy summer for you, and obviously busy summer in Boston sports. Like we mentioned, you're back covering it all right as we head into the thick of a lot of seasons right now. First one being Patriots football, going to be getting going this weekend after everyone hears this conversation. But just, backtracking to everything that happened from the end of the last tumultuous Gerard Mayo season to now. What are your thoughts on what the Patriots accomplished from, February to the point where we're sitting right as the season starts?
I think the biggest thing I've got to go to is they finally have, it seems like they have a shared vision. They have guys in place who have done it before. Mike Vrabel, they bring in, maybe the most decorated offensive coordinator in league history, a guy who's super familiar with Foxborough, and Josh McDaniels. They have some guys around Mike Vrabel, who he's done it with before in Tennessee, in Ryan Cowden, and then John Stryker, who they call Stretch, kind of is Ernie Adams, so to speak, if you want to make that general parallel. But it seems like there's a brain trust. It seems like there's a North Star with what they want to do, the type of player they want to attract, the type of guy that they went out and drafted and signed and spent money on in free agency. So, we're going to see what happens this season, but at least I think you're going to know what to expect game in and game out. Mike Vrabel's going to be prepared. He's not going to make statements in the media about something and then have to walk it back the next day, or say he's going to bench a guy and then doesn't bench. I mean, everything that could have went wrong last year went wrong, but credit to Robert Kraft for ripping the Band-Aid off, going with a guy who he probably should have hired 13 months prior. And hopefully this is a new direction for the Pats.
Yeah, so as far as Mike Vrabel goes, I know you have, because of your role at WHDH, a lot of chances to interact and see what Vrabel's like with the media, his press conferences, in your dealings with him, what you've seen in his reign so far as coach. How do you vibe with him, and what do you think his dynamic's going to be like as a coach with the media this season?
Yeah, well, when I sat down with him right after his introductory press conference in January, obviously a much different tone, right? That's all excitement, being back in Foxborough, his wife's alongside of him, the honeymoon phase, so to speak, is kind of still in play. But as he spoke through training camp and some of the preseason games, and I won't pretend like I was there because I was off for the month of July to be with my son and the first week or two in August, just watching everything and reading everything, it really does seem like the roster construction and the lack of talent still is starting to finally set in. Like he made the comment recently about, hey, it's still just our first training camp in our first season here in Foxborough. Like this was the 31st, 32nd roster in the NFL a season ago. Not much better the previous 2 years before that. Like they've gotten marketably better this offseason by spending some money on the offensive and defensive lines, drafting at those positions, spending some money on the wide receiver room, namely Stephon Diggs. Mac Hollins, I think, can be a solid pickup as well and serviceable in Josh McDaniels' offense. But still, even with all those additions, the draft capital and the money they spent, maybe the roster's like the 20th best. They're still going to be in the bottom half of the league. So It's going to be hard to really see the amount of improvement and growth that they've made going into this season. And I think Vrabel's gotten snippy at some reporters here and there, different questions, different reporters. I think that's him starting to be like, okay, football's like 10 days away. He knows what a good product's all about. This is a former NFL Coach of the Year, a guy who led the Titans to an AFC championship and had a 1 seed too in a market like Nashville. Like he knows what a good product should look like. And I think he knows right now they're still a ways away. He's going to do the best that he can. He's going to have his guys prepared. They're going to have a fighting chance. They're not going to lose games they shouldn't, at least not on his terms, coaching staff terms, in terms of preparation. Maybe you lose it on a physical mistake like a fumble or a missed assignment or a penalty on the field. But I think he's really starting to understand that, okay, wait a minute, this climb is we're still at the very bottom of the mountain going up, and it might take a little while.
Yeah, and he's definitely mapping it for him to be here for a while, saying it's his first everything. So this is going to be a multi-step process indeed. So hopefully it's a longer run than Gerard Mayo's was as coach in Foxborough. But regardless, a lot of excitement around him. And obviously Drake May, we got to touch on, making that leap in the sophomore season is what we talk about a lot with young quarterbacks. There were moments of brilliance, but in the end, when you just look at his raw win and loss record, he did not win a lot in his rookie season. What do you think kind of his sophomore season holds and, his potential to be a leader here in the franchise?
I mean, you look at it, I think he still has as much room for improvement on the field as he does off the field. Like Mike Vrabel talked about the way he wants his quarterback to command the huddle and talk to his guys and grab their attention and make sure they're in the right spots coming out of the huddle. Like all of that stuff, I don't know, just because you play quarterback, does that necessarily mean those leadership skills come naturally to you? We still have to see that out of Drake May starting week one, coming into, the springtime or right after the season in January. Everyone's looking at him like, okay, we know you're the guy. Different than last year when it was, hey, Jacoby Brissett's going to start. We know Drake's the future. We don't know when he's going to start. He didn't really have to assume those responsibilities. So I think he still has some room for improvement in that area, especially reading between the lines in terms of what Mike Vrabel has said about him. And then you look at the on the field stuff, and there's going to be a play or two a game where, hey, he's got the potential to be a top 10, top 8 type quarterback in the league in the near future. Maybe top 5 is like the ultimate dream, but it's going to be tough. Talks of like an easy schedule, I'm not buying it. They play some veteran coaches early on in the season. Just because teams weren't good last year doesn't mean they're not going to be good again this year. And he's got to make sure he doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah, the boys in the group chat are getting very overzealous with the win total right now. I'm trying to have them to hold the horses right now. I'm not sure we're going to fly through things.
I think we got to pump the brakes a little bit. Nationally, it looks great with the new names and the flashiness of Vrabel and McDaniels and May and Diggs. Like there's some more guys who will show up on the marquee for like that Sunday night game in Buffalo. Like it's not like, all right, which face are we going to put up there? They have some known talent now. But I think locally, as you start to pick through this roster and how easy it was to trim it down to 53, I mean, he got up to the podium the morning after the Giants game, Mike Vrabel did, and he cut 15 guys on the spot. And they were one of the first week 3 preseason games. So there was no real rush to do that like 5 days out before roster cuts. And it's like, these guys are nowhere close to NFL rosters. They got to go. I know I got off track a little bit there in terms of Drake May, but I think there's a talent deficiency around him. It's going to take time to learn Josh McDaniel's system. The bye week is week 14. I think that's a sneaky big storyline, because if they had a week 5, 6, 7 bye, you'd be able to play the first month of the season, 5, 6 weeks of the season, and then kind of press pause, have 2 weeks off, be able to look back at this at kind of what you did early on, the first quarter, the first third of the season, and then chart a path forward for the last 2/3 to maybe springboard you. There's not going to be a time to press that pause button and take a breath until week 14. So it's going to be a lot on the fly. It's going to be a lot on Drake May's plate, both on the field and off the field. And I think he's going to have moments of brilliance. I think they're going to be in the playoff conversation. I have them as an 8-9 win team as of this moment right now. But I think there's still going to be some rip your hair out moments, and it's not just going to come up all butterflies and rainbows right away. From day one, week 1 against the Raiders coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. Well assessed. I'm right around that 8 or 9 win mark as well, too. For the Patriots, another team we got to touch on real quick. We're listening to this in September right now. Usually the Red Sox hat has been off in September the last few years. It's been a handful of years since there's been late season momentum. But this team is buzzing. They're young. I kind of feel like they're out shooting their shot right now, but I'm here for the ride. What's the buzz like in Boston as we head into the final 3-4 weeks of the season here?
Buzz is real. Great deadline aside, buzz is real. Craig Breslow, in my opinion, did a really good job in the offseason to set this team up for success. They've got some depth issues starting rotation-wise, but the way Brian Bayo and Lucas Giolito have looked behind Garrett Crochet gives you a formidable starting rotation for the stretch run and for the postseason. AL is wide open. The division's not out of play. At the time of this taping, the Red Sox are 4 games out first place from the Blue Jays with 4.5 weeks to go. So there is some time to close that gap and win the division, especially with 3 in Toronto coming up at the end of September. I think this is a team that can get in, and with Bayo and Crochet at least games 1 and 2, if you can line them up, you can win a wild card series. You can certainly go win an ALDS series. There's no real team out there that scares me. If you look at it now, do they have the depth? Do they have the high leverage arms to piece your way through the postseason? Managers are often going to pull starting pitching in the 4th to 5th inning if it gets hairy, if it's a close game. Like, can they do it for a 3-4 week stretch at that level in the postseason? That remains to be seen. But right now, like, you hate to say it like this, but as the kids say, like, the vibes are high. Ever since Roman Anthony came up and Rafael Devers went out the door and the pitching decided to finally pitch the way they were capable of, they're the second best team in baseball since early June. And that's no fluke. And that's not even facing like an easy schedule. Sure, when they had that long winning streak, it started with the Nationals, it started with the Rockies. They had the Rays at home who were kind of sliding at that time. But out of the break, they held strong against the Cubs, the Phillies, and the Dodgers. They looked really good against the Astros twice. They went on the road and played the Padres well. Like, that's a significant sample size that shows you this team's for real. And I think it could be a really fun October. And what's great about it is, if the Patriots start 1-3 or 2-2, like, you're going to be distracted a little bit because we might have some October baseball.
Yeah, it's been several years since I've been able to say that. I love that feeling. I remember the feeling of watching Patriots games at Gillette Stadium and being distracted by Red Sox playoff games going on at the same time. So if we could reinvigorate a little bit of that fall feeling, I wouldn't be mad at it. One team that's not going to start till this fall that I want to touch on real quick is just your thoughts on the Celtics, Suns, Jason Tatum for what's going to be probably a long time this season. That's going to be a very interesting look after a weird end to a pretty disappointing campaign last year. But just what that Celtics team is going to look like, because I think a lot of people forget on a national level that Jason Tatum will not be playing for a good chunk of the season. Is that right?
That's at least what it feels like at this point. I mean, some people are quick to say they're not going to bring him back at all. Some people think he will come back in, say, like March or April. The videos that Tatum's posted obviously has people licking their lips thinking he's going to come back sooner than later and have this magical 7-8 month recovery, maybe 9 month. I mean, this used to be an injury 10, 15, 20 years ago that was like 12 months minimum. And now, because he got the surgery right after and it was super quick, and now there's this new style in terms of the way that they did the surgery allows players to come back quicker. Tatum is still on the younger side, so maybe his body can handle extra workload in terms of physical recovery to get back and physical therapy. As far as the Celtics, like, the thing I keep going back to is I've thought about them and read about them and watched the moves they've made, the trades, the draft picks, the signings. It comes down to internal motivation, I think, is the theme. Joe Mazzulla's got a lot to prove. He knows without Jason Tatum, if he has a good season, hey, it's not just I coach stars to a championship. Like, I'm worth my chops here in the NBA. And the team who gave me that contract extension recently believes in me, and I want to prove to them that I'm here for the long haul. Jaylen Brown, can he be a 1A option? You know, it has eaten at him inside that he has been 1B behind Jason Tatum ever since Tatum stepped in the league. I think he's got an opportunity and a platform now to prove that. Can Derek White be a number 2 in the NBA? This is the guy who's been doubted his whole basketball life, starting at a Division III school all the way up to, working his way on to be an Olympic gold medalist for Team USA last summer. Peyton Pritchard, 6th man of the year. This is a guy who never thinks that anybody should give him credit. Can he be a legitimate starter in the NBA? And then, oh, by the way, you look at the front court, and the front court's completely different. And Nemish Queta has a great opportunity to say, no, I can step in and I can be a legitimate center. He may not score the ball a ton. He may foul out a lot. But if he can block a lot of shots and grab a lot of rebounds and set screens and open up the floor for the guys around him, he's got an opportunity to not only impress this season and earn a contract going forward. Like, if he plays really well this season, this is a guy that could then springboard a 10 to 12 year career, or it could go the other way. If he doesn't play well, it could be out of the league in a couple of years. I think all of those individual pieces, they come together, and I think they play pretty well. They have a fairly easy schedule, in my opinion, early on. They catch the Sixers 3 times. Forget if it's the first month, 6 weeks. I don't think Joel Embiid will be back, at least not at 100% MVP level, Joel Embiid caliber. So I think that's a touch of a break. They play like 24, 25 nationally televised games as opposed to maybe in the low 30s or mid 30s. Travel might be a little bit easier there. And then I also just think in general, the East has a lot of winnable games against bad teams at the bottom that maybe you don't get in the West. So if that's an extra 5 to 7 win boost across the board, if you can take care of business, we know the Celtics have been known in the regular season to lose a random Wednesday night in Washington or not play well in Charlotte or, But if those pieces come together, Anthony Simons, I also forgot to mention him in terms of, hey, he's getting a chance to play on a big stage. Like Portland's kind of been a sleeper recently. And when he was there, Damian Lillard was still there. CG McCollum, he was kind of under the wings. Can he be a 6-man type player? If all the stars align, they can be somewhere, in my opinion, in the 5 to 8 seed range. I think 4 is starting to get up there in terms of how good the top of the East is. Orlando got a lot better. I think Detroit can take a next step. New York's going to be good. Cleveland's not going anywhere. I know Indiana lost Miles Turner and doesn't have Tyrese Halliburton, but I think Rick Carlisle is an unbelievable coach. And then there's going to be other teams that might take a jump, like the Hawks could get in the mix, teams like that. If this Celtics team's in the 5 to 7, 5 to 8 range, Jason Tatum loves to play basketball. He is going to be knocking down Brad Stevens' door to say, hey, I need to get back out on the court. And it's all going to depend. The spring is going to depend on the first 3 months of the season. And if by the trade deadline, they feel like they can make a run, hey, you're a plucky 6 seed and you're getting Tatum back. He can play 8 to 10 regular season games before the postseason. They might keep it together. If not, I'd be in for a slow tank. Try to get into the back half of the lottery, maybe trade off some pieces, get some more assets, and then reassess for 26, 27. But I think it's just going to be an interesting season to watch regardless. We don't know what's going to happen. It's not the last couple of years where it was title or bust. But I think that's what makes it interesting. A nice little curveball, a nice little changeup. Hey, what's going to happen? There's so many unknowns. It could go many different directions.
Yeah, and it's that idea of, the injury timeline, watching that for Tatum, and then can they hold water and just be decent enough for that moment if and when he comes back. So very exciting headlines indeed coming up in the Boston sports scene. Morey, thank you so much for updating us on those. Let's get to a few fun questions before we wrap. Just a few rapid fire ones. I always touch on something golf related. Golf headline heading into the Ryder Cup. Keegan Bradley not picking himself as a playing captain. Your thoughts on that decision?
Golf clap for Keegan. I think it's great.
Pretty noble.
Wouldn't have
gutsy.
Big time. I mean, wouldn't have batted an eye if he picked himself. Yep. But hey, you know what? He decided to pick somebody else in place of his spot. We're going to be locked in. I mean, this event has really started to grow. I think in the last 5 to 10 years, I think it's really snowballed, especially with the way the game has been played. And now that it's back on home soil, I think there's going to be a lot of support there in New York coming up. I'm excited.
Yeah, Morey, I'm heading there for Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to be there for the weekend of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. The fun connection for another Course of Life podcast guest who you obviously know. Was that Mark Dondero I saw on the WHDH airwaves recently?
Yes, he's done some freelance fill-in jobs for us. When I was on paternity leave, part 2, and our weekend sports anchor Trey Dare left to take a sports director job at a station in Arkansas where his wife's from. We needed to fill the gap. So a guy who's been on the Sports Hub, a guy who's been on WEEI, local guy, born and raised here, knows the teams. We plucked him for a couple of weeks.
Nice. Love that. We always end with our food questions, but let's start with Gates first. I'm sure he's got a very sophisticated palate at this point in his life. So what's he eating right now?
Big time. I mean, the kegs are always available. Mom always says, I'm open for business. So I think it's good for him. The kitchen's never closed in terms of Gates Goodwill Hershgordon's life.
Love that. Awesome. And 19th hole question for you, which is just kind of your meal of the moment or a good meal you had recently. What's a great meal and drink you had recently in the area?
Oh, that's a great one. So on the corner of Route 27 and 135 in Natick, we have a farm to table right down the street from us. It's called Buttercup. Phenomenal meal. My wife and I got out. My mother-in-law came over early on in paternity leave, and we had 4:45 reservations in order to be back for bath time and bedtime.
Yep.
And we had a phenomenal meal. Got the short rib, got a bunch of oysters, had a couple of good drinks. Buttercup, definitely. We've been there a few times, and always good to support local, especially in our town where we live and obviously pay taxes. So Buttercup in Natick, right there on the marathon route, mile 10, phenomenal spot.
Nice. All right. He's a 4:45 reservation guy. You can catch him at nights on WHDH in Boston. Morey, thanks again for hopping back on the podcast, and look forward to connecting with you down the road.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.